So, Guardians of the Galaxy was a good movie, for what it was. It came from a comic that nobody really knew about, so people didn't know what to expect, but what we got was a cool sci-fi action movie with a solid cast of characters, great comedic delivery, explosions, and a kick-ass soundtrack. It was something new for Marvel. It's like a lot of films we've seen before, but it was a nice distraction from everything that was happening with the Avengers and the other movies. And with as much praise it received and money that it made, it was obvious that we needed a sequel. How does this compare to the original? Let's find out. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is about, I don't know actually. The plot is kind of all over the place and it would take too long for me to explain, but basically, shit goes down with the Guardians and Kurt Russell is involved and there's a really short cameo by Sylvester Stallone even though he was in top billing, and even though there are two other cameos with the same screen time that left the same impact, did not receive that. Just thought I'd throw that out there. I mentioned before that I'm not a Marvel fanboy or anything. I enjoy watching the movies from time to time, but they're nothing I would rush to the theater to see. Except Guardians of the Galaxy was one of the few I actually gave a shit about, so I was excited to see what this one had to offer. The characters are all still great and give solid performances and have hilarious exchanges between each other that I got a lot of laughs out of. As I mentioned, the plot is a little all over the place, but it's saved by all the hilarious dialogue. The soundtrack is also really good. It's not as good as the original, but it's got some great familiar songs that lighten its enjoyability, and I would still recommend buying. Plus, I'm starting to notice that Disney keeps mentioning their films in these MCU movies. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Agent Carter, Pinocchio and Age of Ultron, and here we have Mary Poppins. And even Thomas the Tank Engine and Ant-Man counts because the show aired on Disney Junior, but I'm getting off track. My main issue with this film that makes it inferior to the original is that the third act goes on way too long. The movie's a little over 2 hours long, and the first two acts seem a little bit short, but only because the third act goes on for way too long, probably at least an hour. This movie has one of the longest third acts in any film I've seen, next to Return of the King, a movie that was practically 3 hours long, and also had several endings like Return of the King. I mean, it was entertaining, and I couldn't keep my eyes off the screen, but I couldn't help but wonder how much longer it was gonna go on for. Every time it seems like it's about to wrap up, it keeps throwing surprises at you, which can be good, but there's a little too many in this case. For me, the third act really separates this one from the original, but other than that, this was a pretty solid sequel to the original. I had doubts at first going into this because aside from Captain America, none of the Avengers have been given grace with their sequels, but I can definitely say this film left me surprised, and it is a pretty good sequel. If you love the first movie, you'll have a lot of fun with this one, and we can only hope the future of Marvel sequels looks brighter. Even if Thor Ragnarok looks like it's trying to be Guardians, but as long as that one gives me some good Jeff Goldblum, I'll be entertained. So go check out Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and have yourself a good time.